Sales is heavily focused on emotions, and a lot of times in sales, what we tend to do is focus on our outcome, the products, and what we're going to give them as a result of this. But we need to look at the emotional side of why people are going to make a decision. And on today's episode, we're going to give you a formula that will guarantee to help you with your case studies, with your marketing, and most importantly, with your sales to convert and close more deals. Check this out. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to have you here watching us on YouTube on TSE TV. Now, today we have an amazing guest on the show. His name is Sean Doyle, and Sean is the principal and CEO of an organization called Fitz. It's a marketing and sales consulting firm, and they work with some of the most amazing organizations in the world. Now, one of the great things that Sean does, in addition to just coming with the sales knowledge and the marketing knowledge, he's able to understand why we do certain things because of how we make decisions as human beings. In our conversation, we were discussing what we're going to talk about on this episode, and it led into this discussion, which led to this topic, which we selected. And it's really on looking back, looking forward, and how this is important, not only in our case studies on our website, but how and why human beings like to do that and how it would help us to convert more. As we dive into this episode, you're going to hear him talk a little bit more about that principle and how it can help you. So let's go ahead and jump in. And I know you're going to get some things that you like from it. If this is your first time watching one of our videos, I encourage you to go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel so you can get notified every time we produce a new one. Let's dive into the episode. That you would like to share about yourself that maybe I probably didn't capture.
Oh, that was a pretty good introduction. Yeah, so Fitz is a sales first consultancy. We start with sales and then help with marketing and create alignment. But probably one of the most important parts about us in that holistic view is that we're based on science. We're not based on our opinion. In fact, one of the rules around our office is you're not allowed to say, I like, or I think. You have to say, based on this science, this person is going through a process of behavioral change. And based on this science, the next steps and what we should do from marketing, what we should do from sales is this. It's a different conversation when you're able to talk that way. Otherwise, you're just kind of feeling good, and the artsy side comes out. You start talking about color, and that's fine. There's value to great design. I'm not knocking that at all. Sure. But business leaders have been fooled by lots of hype, right? Lots of hype in our business, and I'm going to say maybe the sales guys tend to be really better at sort of hype, or maybe it's hubris. I don't know. I can't remember. But the marketing guys, we tend to be hopeful, and we make these promises. And if you'll just do some marketing, man, everything is going to be different. And the reality is, it's both, right? It's both. Yeah. And sales and marketing have to work together. So we've built our business around driving revenue for clients by basing our thinking on science and integrating sales and marketing.
Very interesting. And the concept there of marrying those two, we find too much in the world of our arena. It's one or the other, right? Or us versus them. And I'm grateful that many companies are looking for ways to kind of, blend those two. We've seen, when I was working software sales, I know sometimes we said, those dang marketing folks, man, they send us these crappy leads. And obviously they're like, those dang salespeople, they can't close these leads we're giving them. But aligning those two, realizing we're on the same page, we're in the same camp, so to speak, just like a different title.
One of the gifts we'll offer at the end of this Christmas show, I don't know, this may be in July, but we're going to call it a Christmas show. But, is this idea of a framework, the science-based framework. And one thing that's really interesting is we've built out a weighting, and it's a way for an executive to understand the weight of marketing and the weight of sales. So as human beings, we all love heroes. Well, sales tends to be the hero in most situations because they're the last touch. They get the attribution because they were the last touch before the deal got done. And most businesses And most salespeople don't want marketing involved because they don't know what to do at the very end of the end of a life cycle of a prospect, at the very right at that moment, right before close, right? Marketing abandons its role way too soon for the most part. And they abandon it because we all think it's about awareness, right? We all, marketers all think about it's creating these leads. The science actually tells us something pretty interesting. And all those bad leads you've been complaining about, your crummy marketing team, well, 80% of them, you should expect 80% of them to be in a cycle of consideration, preparing to change, and then retreating.
Yeah.
Moving forward and then looking backward, moving forward and looking backward. The behavioral science, which I need to introduce, it's the trans-theoretical theorem of behavioral change. Donald, if you can spell any of those words, I'm going to give you a bonus here. No, I can.
Trans,
You could.
Trans, trans.
Trans-theoretical, yeah, it's a lot. It's Prochachka, Norcross, and DiClemente are the scientists that get the attribution there. But the science says that people can yo-yo like this for 2 years. Wow. So when we expect all these leads to just turn into deals, well, then it's our expectations that were wrong. But marketers, that doesn't get you off the hook totally. You've got to understand when someone moves forward what to do. And there's more to it than awareness. There's more to it than a website that's emotional. There's more to it than a rational reevaluation of the way you're thinking. Do you know, marketing team or executives, when you interview, here's my secret insider tip. When you're interviewing an ad agency, ask this one question. Ask them to articulate what is effective for marketing to do right before a deal gets closed. And if they look at you with a dumbfounded look, you've got the wrong agency. Got to move on, right? A good marketer knows how to impact a deal all the way through, even to customer success, even to advocacy, which is the word the behavioral science would teach us. So advocacy is that customer that's telling other people about Donald Kelly and the sales evangelist. And man, they changed our world when they came in and did the coaching. And that's an evangelist, right? Yeah. Well, marketing should impact everybody from way before they contemplate to all the way back into customer success. So ask not just your agency, ask your CMO, ask the person who's in charge of your marketing these questions. Ask them to articulate the entire customer decision journey and make sure, and this is the gap most of them will have, make sure they have a late stage understanding of how to support sales. So the hero complex, which is natural, it's human to want a hero, hurts marketing because marketing doesn't know how to support the hero instead of denying the hero, right? We all want attribution in marketing and we get ticked at sales. No, we want the attribution to go to sales, right? That's why we're here, is to create revenue. We're successful if sales closed a deal.
Everybody eats.
Okay, you got me going.
Everybody will eat. And and I like the fact that you brought that up because this leads right into our conversation today. You and I were chatting before this episode, and and for you listener, you're in for some amazing treat here. We want to talk about this idea of showing looking back and then looking forward. This concept of how, and I think this can definitely help with that marketing standpoint. If you can go with what you just shared about marketing being able to help with the hero finishing up the process, this concept can work like very profoundly in that, I feel. So I would love for you to kind of share this, because they're probably saying, what are you talking about looking back, looking forward, Donald? Is this some kind of like a Job story or Lot in the Bible? There we go.
Yeah, well, actually, I do a really interesting talk called Moses on Marketing. If you want to get into the biblical point of view on sales, let's do it. And maybe another conversation for another day. The idea of looking back, looking forward, this comes from the science of behavioral change. Sure. So an abbreviated version of the story is in 2002, I got really sick. I went from running marathons to couldn't walk up the stairs of my house. I drove to work one day and I fell asleep in the parking lot in my car. I was tired to hold my hands on the wheel driving. Yeah, remember that guy weaving down the road? That was me. I was just so tired. No accidents, but I got the help I needed. Medicine helped me through it. And at this time, I was going through and really reevaluating my life and my work. I was asking myself, why why can I be successful with clients sometimes and
Mm,
other times I wasn't? What was it? And what was my framework? What was a solid ground I could stand on that would allow me to help people repeatedly and consistently? And this book, Changing for Good, was the science, the articulation of the trans-theoretical science. You can get it on eBay, a couple bucks. It's a pretty interesting read. It's actually about the change of behavior, like I'm going to lose weight or I want to quit smoking. But I was looking at it and I saw in this book, this is a consumer decision journey in marketing and sales parlance. For the sales guys here, it's a pipeline, right?
yeah.
It's the people that have never heard of us all the way through to the people that we closed. So how, like, that was great. And that wasn't necessarily an aha moment. Everybody listening has a sales pipeline probably in their MAT, marketing automation technology, or their CRM systems. But what the aha moment was is found in these idea that there's 9 processes. This is what the scientists uncovered, 9 processes across all forms of behavioral science that allow us to move people forward only at specific places.
Mm,
So as a marketer, a guy with a marketing roots, and Donald, I think I'd love to hear your opinion as a guy with sales as his roots. Early in my career, I thought it was all about creating awareness. Well, the science says that I've got to create social liberation and consciousness raising, but that when I'm closing a deal, if I keep trying to create awareness, it's wasted.
okay.
As a person going through change, I don't need more awareness when I'm looking at a contract. That's when I need countering and environmental controls and rewards and helping relationships and controls around commitment. It has nothing to do with more awareness. I was doing some consulting for a professional services firm. I won't mention it was a lawyer. um, Lawyers are the worst salespeople, and they will admit it, most of them, because they don't want to be in sales, right?
Yeah.
And I looked at one of their deals, and it was this binder. Man, this thing had 70, 80 pages in it. Guess how big the proposal was?
One page.
One page, but you had to find it. You had to go sorting through. Here's our Vita. Here's who we are. Here's the type of what you're trying to close a deal. Just give us the deal. So marketing didn't know how to support the behavioral change.
Mm,
So these processes, when you understand as a sales and marketing consultancy that there's specific ways to help, but you can only help when the customer wants to move forward, and you can only use certain processes in certain places. Well, the book gets into that in depth, and it's a great read. Looking back, looking forward. So that's part of this book. And looking back, looking forward tells us that everybody going through change has to do both. When you begin to contemplate change, so change might be, I've got a sales coach and I've got 57% of my sales team is missing their quota, and I'm looking for a way to fix that. By the way, if you haven't been to Donald's website, that's one of his headlines. It's a great headline because it gives us a chance to demonstrate looking back, looking forward. So looking back, 57% of our sales team is missing quotas. That's looking back. That's looking at the way things are bad, and I'm not happy with that. But I've got to look forward too, right? We can fix that. In your headline tells me that you've got a proven path, that you can build a better way for me to do this. And that's amazing, right? So I can look back and look forward. And that is a pivotal thing. Right now, here's practical tip. Go to your website, listeners, and see, does your website only offer forward-looking visuals, forward-looking ideas, forward-looking stories, or do you paint a picture? Donald, have you ever been to a movie where the hero came in the beginning of the movie and all the way through the entire movie, things just got better for the hero?
I cannot think of a movie where that happened.
It would be really boring, wouldn't it?
Really boring. I need some issues.
do you do you teach your salespeople to have an arc in their storytelling? And tell me about what you're doing there.
Yeah, so I'm sure you're familiar with I learned this, stumbled on it. I did a lot of speech and debate in high school, And then post that, a number of years ago, I got into Toastmasters, and I was looking at my stories, and I stumbled on Joseph Campbell's concept, the hero's journey. And I started to use that in all of my speeches, give them a lull. My speech coach at the time was saying, you need to bring them up in emotions and down. And I was like, well, there's got to be something deeper. And that's when I discovered Joseph Campbell's concept. And then I read Don Miller's book, Donald Miller, the
Sure.
story brand as well. But the concept, we used that when we were, I encourage them to tell stories and to make sure you bring that up and that down. And then also, in our in just like in general, like we just want to give them drama. They need drama. They crave drama. Give them some drama so that they can convert. And especially when we coach clients, we help them to recognize that as well. Don't be the hero per se. Help your client to be the hero. And just kind of like
Yep.
what we were saying, marketing should support the sellers in that concept. But anyways, yeah.
Right. So, no, that's perfect. You just did an incredible job of articulating what's interesting, what engages us as humans. And it's that ability to look back. Like, if I don't, as I'm going through my journey of behavioral change, let's say I'm buying a large capital expenditure item or I'm buying a new service,
Mm.
you've got to keep reminding me, salespeople, marketing people, you've got to keep reminding me of the terrible past I've got, the problem that I've got. We tend, though, on our website to want to rip open our capes and say, we're the hero, look at our company. And we forget that our buyers, our prospects don't know that yet, don't care about that yet. And besides, that's about you. And as a prospect, it needs to be about me, right? So, I mean, tell me stories. I need to see stories, and don't give me boring stories that are just things got great, things got better. Oh my gosh, it's great. And Donald Kelly was the source of that. I mean, that's all fine, but I'll pay attention to it if you tell me a story. Here's what we were doing. We tried these four different coaches. We tried this model. Growing up, I went through in the business world, I went through Sandler sales. I went through all kinds of sales training. And if we were going to do the big whammy pitch on you, man, I'd tell you about all the different training I got and how I felt like I was being taught to manipulate. And I didn't want to do that. I want to help, right? I want to help people. And that's why I'm giving away this stuff now, because it's fun to help, and you can be helped by this. I want to change the way executives in this middle market space think about sales and marketing. So let me just get it out there. The rest will take care of itself.
Mm.
So looking forward, right? So salespeople, there's an error that you're probably making too. And I can remember distinctly when I was being coached, right before I was to hand the prospect a final contract, or when I was giving my verbal proposal, my coach said, listen, you've got to say, Donald, before we talk about moving forward, are you sure you want to do this? I'm thinking, I've worked so hard to get him up to the finish line, and now you want me to ask if he's sure? And it sounds terrifying, but guess what? The behavioral science supports it,
Yeah.
because 80% of the people at the finish line are going to go back anyway,
Yeah.
right? 80%, and here's an even scarier number, 80% of your customers are looking back. This is what we do as people. We all look back, we reconsider, we go through that looped journey of contemplating and preparation and action. And your customers are going through that. So you've got to remind people that are at the finish line before they're a customer. You've got to remind people who are your current customers of the way life used to be. You don't need to bludgeon them, but remind them. Help me look back.
So let's go back to this concept. And so you're saying 80% with a team right now, they're working on a team of 10 individuals, 10 sales reps right now. And each of them have 5 deals each. Let's just keep it simple. So 5 times 10, 50. So they have 50 deals that are at the finish line right now, or close to the finish line. So you're telling me that of the 50, that only 20% of those would close right now.
Correct. based on the science of behavioral change. So
Wow.
let's look at it this way, Donald. So if
Yeah.
I'm going to, that was really good math, by the way, you're smart.
Hey,
Um,
gotta move that zero.
um, 80% of the people, and I've got a friend who runs a gym down in the New Orleans area, and I'd read this and I just couldn't believe it. And I said to my friend, I said, what I just read is that at a gym, 95% of the people that have memberships don't utilize that membership. And he said, yeah, that's probably a little high. And I'm thinking about this 80% number in my head, but that's true. And I'm thinking, well, why is that then? So that's 80% of these people who went to a gym, joined the gym, pay monthly fees to the gym, or as we call it in our family, we call it donation, a monthly donation to the gym,
Yep.
because we don't utilize it, right? So, but that's what that's expressing is I even made an exchange relationship, but my behavior never changed.
Hmm.
I liked the idea of my behavior changing. I actually even bought something. And this is why some of your customers retreat. They buy, but they never change. So you've got to move deeper than just the exchange relationship as the signal. In fact, with my clients, what we talk about everything in terms of conversions. And I remember the first time this happened. I went into it was a banking services company, and I was sitting in their executive team meeting, and they said, "Oh yeah, we've got this really big stage 3, 4 conversion problem." And they went on and talked about this client that needed a helping relationship and needed to make some form of a private commitment. And I'm sitting there going, ah, I didn't say that. You said that. You used the language. Your
Yeah.
behavior changed. This is amazing. I mean, the deal, whatever, I don't even know if they got it, but I was thrilled because there was a behavioral change, not just the exchange relationship. So yeah, even your customers may be retreating from that finish line. And you've got to expect that. And that's one reason, really, what you're doing when you say, let's look back.
Hmm.
Donald, I'd really like you to become a client of Fitz Martin. We'll fix your website. We'll help your marketing be more successful. In fact, I could tell you that of every dollar clients spend with me, they get $287 in return. So, Donald, if you're a smart business person, that's a real number, right? So that's a looking forward comment.
Hmm.
Now, the looking back comment is, or you can just leave it all the same. You're doing fine now. You've got a good business. You're respected nationally. You could just leave it alone.
Hmm.
What do you want to do? What do you think?
And then
Now,
that's when,
all right.
yeah.
Yeah. If you don't look back, then why would, if I'm looking forward, all you're looking at is my proposal, my money, maybe a future state is indicated there. And we're all taught as salespeople, Donald, if you made $287 for every dollar you spent with me, you'd probably have that boat. And that's why I did this relational stuff and took you to lunch and golf. And so I learned that you really want a boat, and, you could have the future state if you'll just buy from me, Donald. Well, that's not authentic unless you say, or you can keep doing things, look back, you can keep doing things the way you're doing, and that's fine. Because
What
it
I
is fine. It's a reality.
Yeah. I mean, it's the status quo, and the status quo is going to still be there. And so going back to this, two thoughts real quick, Sean. One, the now I understand more of the science behind this, why that happens, because now I'm thinking about some of the best sellers that I've had the opportunity to work with, or individuals that were mentors. They would do that to some variation at the end of the
Mhm.
deal. Like, what would happen if you don't do anything today? If you don't, it comes to the
Exactly.
nature. So let's say everything remained constant. What would happen if you don't make this, decide not to go forward? And then I've seen people do that, and then paint the picture of, and then ask the client. So, and what will happen if you did? What would it be like when you do have that roof fixed and you have a nice
Perfect.
roof on your house now? What would that be like?
Yeah.
Oh man, I won't have this leak. All right. Well, if that's what you do, let's make it happen. Whatever. Something to that variation. I
Yeah.
see it now. I
Yeah.
understand.
Right.
The other thought, though, is going back to the 80%. I keep going back to this. I'm thinking that 50% of sales, that 50 deals, and I'm thinking about the coaching clients that I do have. Some of them, and you said 80% of the people will backtrack. They may not buy now. When I think about that initially, I'm thinking the deal is dead. However, if I understand correctly, 80% may not purchase this month. Maybe of the 80,
Right.
40 of them will come back next month because they had to retreat a little bit because
Right.
COVID, the budget cut. I'm really, let's hold off. And I'll give you an
Yeah.
example. We're working with an organization and they came to the finish line. They wanted to get a lot of information. And then they said, well, we're hiring some folks and we want to bring those people to looking at the deal first. And they said, my champion is like, you're definitely, the one in the running, but we don't want to make the decision for this person who we're bringing in. So, anyways, the point though is they are still in the running, but it's not like the deal died, if that makes sense. And I think that's, if I want to clarify what you're saying, 80% may not buy now, but it could be 2 more days, a week, a month, a year.
Correct. And it actually brings up a great and really interesting point. So where do they retreat to? That's the
Yeah,
question.
I'm like, are they going back to
Um,
Bangladesh, or going to
well,
the
they're
States?
not retreating. They're not retreating to pre-contemplation, which is
Yeah,
what the science says when you're not even thinking about making any kind of change. So at pre-contemplation, that's when marketers can get some level of success by creating awareness.
yeah,
Where they retreat to is what's called contemplating. Right. And contemplating is where your website sits. And that's people go when they're contemplating, when you're contemplating, we're going to get some new lights for the columns in the front of our house. Well, I'm contemplating all these different options. And where do I do it? I go to the website. I go to 5 websites. I go to 10 websites. And I didn't make any decisions for 2 weeks. So I'm still contemplating. I didn't go back to being unaware of the value of the lights or my wife's desire to have the lights or that there's lights out there. That doesn't just all disappear. But marketers, if you don't start applying later stage processes according to the behavioral science, if all you do is try to create more awareness, then you fail. That's why your awareness efforts fail. When we do something called a sales barrier consultancy
hmm.
or an audit, sales barrier audit, and we look at this framework and we map out where people spend money. We map out what their sales teams are doing. We map out what their marketing teams are doing. And by codifying it and looking at it in this framework, we can identify where there's gaps or barriers to the sales journey. I'd say 80%, boy, this 80% rule, right? The 80-20 rule, this is
Yeah,
everywhere. The majority of our clients spend way too much money, way too early in the sales cycle. And their marketing teams are way too underskilled or underaged, or they're smart people and they're doing beautiful work, but they're not spending it in the right space, right? They're not helping people move from contemplation to preparation to action. So what happens is we think those leads are garbage. And we complain that the marketing department's brought in the wrong leads. So often it's not that they didn't bring in the wrong leads or the leads look dead, because now you can bring in bad quality leads. There's no doubt. I mean, I'm not going to say there's no such thing as a bad lead. But another test I would offer is any lead you get shouldn't be a bluebird, right? It should be a lead that you pursued. So I've got 600 businesses that I can name. I could hand them to you today, Donald, and said, these are the 600 people I should be working with. Why would I pursue somebody that I don't know if I should work with them or not? I need to know whether there's a need and a fit before I even reach out to somebody, especially in this lower middle market space, you know who your right prospects are. So if your marketing team is bringing in bad leads should be defined by there's not a need fit relationship. It should not be defined by the sales team didn't close them, therefore they're a bad lead. It should be that's the wrong type of business. It's, they can't afford us. They can't, whatever. So just the idea of that retreat is back to contemplating. So that's where these processes of further emotional arousal or rational reevaluation tools, and even helping relationships, that sales tends to be good at that, right?
yeah,
Reaching out to people and saying, I can help you figure this out. We could put together a proposal that has maybe not even a proposal. We could do a little short audit. We could give you 5 case studies. Those case studies have to look back and look forward. The sales team has to be talking about looking back and forward. The marketing team has to do the same. So most of your case studies are wrong because they won't look back. We
mm,
all want them to look forward. And the second reason your sales team is not using your case studies at the right time. So we're tended to use them earlier than is needed, or just not all the way through the journey. So that use those case studies if they look back and forward at the very end. They could be soft. It doesn't have to be a beat you over the head thing. Nobody likes to get beaten over the head. So, just use those case studies forward and backward looking all the way from your website where they should be. Remember, if I'm contemplating, that means I'm asking a question, why, right? Simple, quick, short stories. Before I do an exchange relationship, I need a big, deep, robust case study that gives me more detail. So the case studies shouldn't be one case study you use through the whole consumer decision journey. They should be different levels of case study.
Love it, man.
You got me excited, Donald. We're closing deals, man.
That's a lot of
We're
goodness.
going to help
right
so
there.
many people.
A sales leader is going to look at this. They're going to be like, man, it's not 57%. Only had 7% miss it last month.
Yeah, well, I'd say my experience in sales is that more people have underperformers. In fact, I had one of my clients made a really gutsy decision this year during this crisis and let his lowest performers go and invested it in marketing.
Wow.
Very future looking.
Hey, there's maybe a lot of good wisdom in that. Focus on it right way. Now,
I think so.
Now, before we wrap up today, I want to ask you, we did talk about Christmas. We did talk about a gift.
Oh, yes.
And
Donald, you love your listeners. You love your listeners. So Donald offered to buy you guys some books. Isn't it odd? I'm not here to schlep a book. I had the grace of being published by a group called Rockbench Publishing out of Nashville. And it was a book. It's called Shift, SHIFT. If you want to buy it, you can go on to Amazon and get it. But Donald offered to buy them for you. So you can come to fitzmartin.com/free help, FITZMARTIN.com/free help. And you'll find this framework, you'll find some worksheets, and you'll find a link at the bottom of that page. Just plug your email in, and then I will start hounding you with I'm just going to be cruel to you with my marketing. Oh, no, that's not right. I will not, don't worry about it. That exchange relationship is only so that I can give my EA your email address and we'll get your address and drop this book in the mail. So Donald, thank you for buying your listeners a couple books. That was very thoughtful.
Man. I am grateful that we're able to benefit and help some other folks with this little gift, and I appreciate it. And I was going to ask them, where should they go to connect with you, but you articulated it so well already, where they could go and connect to get the gift.
Fitz Martin, you can call me, LinkedIn. It's such an easy thing. Sean M. Doyle, if you want to trying to narrow me down. And I cannot wait. Of course, I don't think I'll listen to this podcast, but the Sales Evangelist is such an important part of the sales landscape. Thank you for producing these, and thank you for helping all of us that are focused and looking at sales.
Hey, no, I appreciate you, man. Thanks so much for coming on the show today. Appreciate it. Hey, that was Sean, and I highly recommend you go and connect with him. You can find all of his details in the show notes. You can also find his information by just going and connect with him on LinkedIn. You can check out some of his content, their website. They produce amazing content, as well as they have a podcast that they do as well, and you stay tuned for some great details about that. I want you guys to improve. I want you to succeed. This is why we're doing a podcast. This is why we do these videos. We want you to be able to take the insights, apply them, because they work. And if it is working for you, I want you to connect with me on LinkedIn and let me know about that. I always like to hear about the success stories of people finding our show and how they're seeing results. You can find me at Donald C. Kelly. As always, I want you to find more of those ideal customers. I want you to know what to say when you reach out to them. I want you to close more deals. I want you to connect with our partners and those sponsors who sponsor our program and some of the great tools that they have. You heard them in this episode. Use them, apply them, and you'll see great results. But most importantly, what I want you to do each and every single day is go out and do big things. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video today. If you enjoyed the content, I ask you to go ahead and hit that like button, that thumbs up at the bottom right-hand corner. Also, to make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. This way, we'll keep you up to date with all the latest sales strategies, latest tools, and things that are going to help you to not only find more prospects, but to close more deals. Thanks so much.